Received a phone call late at night, and when you answered, no one was there? Just silence on the other end. Tell me, what do you do in that moment? Do you hang up assuming it's a wrong number? Or do you stay listening to the emptiness, waiting for something, or someone to breathe? I should have hung up. But I didn't. And that was my first mistake. The first call came at 1:12 a.m. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, yanking me out of a half-dream. Groggy, I picked it up, pressed it to my ear. Silence. Hello. I mumbled, my voice scratchy. Nothing. Hung up. Rolled over. Told myself it was just a drunk dial. But the next night, same time, 1:12 a.m., the phone rang again. This time I was wide awake when I answered. Still nothing. Just a faint hiss like the sound of static. Who is this? I whispered, my heart starting to race. If this is a prank, it's not funny. The line went dead. By the third night, I was already dreading the time. My eyes kept flicking to the clock, waiting for it to hit 1:12. And right on schedule, the phone lit up. Stop calling me, I snapped into the receiver. That's when I heard it. Not words. Not a voice. Just a slow, deliberate inhale. Like someone was savoring the sound of me panicking. I didn't sleep at all after that. Would you have? The calls didn't stop. Every night, same time. Sometimes they'd breathe. Sometimes it was just silence. But the worst was when they repeated things. Little fragments of sound I hadn't realized I'd made. One night I heard my own laugh, distorted, replayed through the line. Another night I heard myself humming in the shower. That's when it hit me. They weren't just calling me. They were listening to me. Recording me. I tore my apartment apart looking for a bug, for a camera, for something. But I found nothing. I told my friend Adam about it. He's one of those tech-savvy guys, always paranoid about spyware. It's probably some creep with a scanner, he said. Or maybe an app hacked your mic. I'll help you figure it out. For a while, I felt safer knowing he believed me. He even offered to stay over a couple of nights, just in case. But the calls never came when he was there. Only when I was alone. One night, after Adam had left, I got desperate. I answered the call and shouted, "What do you want from me?" The silence stretched. Then faintly a whisper. "You!" I froze, clutching the phone so hard my hand ached. "Who are you?" The line clicked dead. I wanted to go to the police, but what call log full of blocked numbers? My own voice echoing back at me. They tell me to change my number. Which I did. But the calls kept coming, always from unknown. Always at 1:12. Weeks passed, and I started falling apart. Bags under my eyes, jumping at every sound, barely able to focus at work. People noticed. Even Adam. "You look awful," he said one day, half joking. "Maybe you should just answer them. Talk to them. See what they want. Are you insane?" But something in the way he said it made my skin crawl. That night I got another call. Only this time it wasn't silence. It was Adam's voice. Clear as day. "Don't ignore me." My blood ran cold. Called him immediately. He picked up, groggy, swearing he'd been asleep. Said I was imagining things. But I knew that voice. It wasn't distorted. It wasn't fake. It was him. The realization hit me like a tidal wave. He'd always been around just enough to help. The calls only stopped when he was with me. He had access to my apartment, my phone, my trust. The next evening he showed up at my door with takeout, smiling like always. But behind the smile I saw it now. The hunger. The possession. "I thought I'd keep you company," he said casually, holding up the food. I forced a smile. Let him in. Pretended everything was normal. Because here's the thing. Once you realize your stalker isn't a stranger, but the person closest to you, the one who's supposed to protect you, you can't just run. You can't just hide. They already know everything. And the scariest part. As I write this now, my phone is buzzing again. 1:12 a.m. I already know who it is. I already know he's smiling on the other end.
Have you ever noticed how easy it is for a stranger to follow you without you realizing it? Think about it. You leave your house, walk a few blocks, maybe take the bus, and you assume no one is paying attention. But what if someone was memorizing your routine? What if someone could trace every step you take without you ever suspecting? If that thought unsettles you, good. It unsettled me too. It all started at the grocery store. Just a regular Tuesday, nothing special. I was grabbing some basics, milk, bread, a pack of pasta, when I noticed a man in the next aisle. He was tall, scruffy, wearing a baseball cap low over his face. I wouldn't have paid him much attention if it weren't for the fact that he didn't seem to be shopping. No basket, no cart, no items in his hands. Just standing there, watching. I gave him a quick glance and moved on. People are weird sometimes, right? But a few minutes later, when I turned into the frozen foods section, there he was again, standing by the glass doors, pretending to look at the ice cream, but every time I shifted, his head tilted in my direction. Would you have said something then? Or brushed it off, like I did? I told myself it was paranoia. Paid for my groceries. Left. Except, when I walked home, I caught the reflection of someone behind me in a shop window. Same baseball cap. Same scruffy jaw. Keeping his distance, but not far enough for me to dismiss it. My heart raced, but if I was wrong. So I tested him. I turned down a street I never use, a long detour through a quieter neighborhood. A couple of blocks later, I glanced back. He was still there. Have you ever felt your body scream run while your brain insists on acting normal? That was me. I walked faster, my hands trembling so hard I almost dropped my grocery bag. Finally, I reached my building and darted inside, slamming the door shut. Through the small lobby window, I saw him stop on the sidewalk. He didn't try to come in. He just stood there, head slightly tilted up toward my window. That night, I barely slept. The next day, I convinced myself it was just a coincidence. A man walking the same way home. A man loitering outside for unrelated reasons. But when I went out again, this time to a cafe a few blocks away, he appeared. Same cap. Same stare. Now, maybe you'd call the police. Maybe you'd confront him. But me. I froze. Because the more I saw him, the more I realized he was enjoying it. That little tilt of the head, that subtle smirk when our eyes met, it was like he wanted me to know he was there. Days turned into weeks. He never spoke to me, never touched me. Just followed. Grocery store. Cafe. Library. Even when I thought I was being clever, ducking into random shops, he'd show up a few minutes later, blending into the background. I started rearranging my life around him. Grocery shopping at odd hours, taking taxis instead of walking, staying late at work to avoid the streets at night. It didn't matter. He adapted. He was always there. The breaking point came one Saturday morning. I woke up, went to make coffee, and nearly dropped the mug when I glanced out the window. He was across the street, standing perfectly still, looking up at my apartment. You know what's worse than being followed? Realizing they know exactly where you live. I finally called the police. They sent a patrol car, took my statement, nodded sympathetically. "We'll keep an eye out," they said. But by the time anyone checked, he was gone. For a while, things got better. A week passed without seeing him. I let myself breathe again, even convinced myself it had all been a misunderstanding. Maybe he'd just moved on. But then, something happened that made my blood freeze. I came home late one night, and as I unlocked the door to my apartment, I noticed a piece of paper on the floor. A folded note, slid under the door. Hands shaking, I picked it up. Inside, written in jagged handwriting, were 3 words. "Nice detour today." My throat closed. That day, I had deliberately walked a different route home, one I had never taken before. No one had been behind me. At least, I thought no one had been. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the dark, staring at the door, waiting for it to creak open. The next morning, I went downstairs to check the mailbox, desperate for normalcy. My neighbor, Mrs. Lee, an older woman who lived across the hall, was there too. She gave me a sympathetic smile. "Rough night again?" she asked. I froze. "How did you?" She chuckled. "Thin walls. I hear you pacing at night. Poor thing." She patted my arm gently. And that's when I saw it, peeking out from under her sleeve. A baseball cap, crumpled in her shopping bag. My stomach dropped. I looked into her face, really looked. The wrinkles, the kind smile, the neighborly concern, it had fooled me completely. But now I remembered, the cap had always been pulled low, the jawline shadowed. It would have been easy to disguise. She leaned in, voice low, eyes suddenly sharp. "You should lock your door better," she whispered. And then she walked away, leaving me standing in the hallway, shaking so hard I could barely breathe.
Have you ever had the feeling someone was watching you, even when you were completely alone? I mean, really think about it. What would you do if, right now, you caught a glimpse of eyes staring through your window? Would you brush it off as paranoia? Or would you freeze, like prey in the sight of a predator? I used to laugh at people who got paranoid about things like that. I told myself, that kind of thing doesn't happen in real life. That's just a movie trope. But I don't laugh anymore. Not after what happened to me. It started last winter. My apartment is on the 3rd floor of an old brick building in the city. Across the street, another building mirrors mine, rows of dusty windows stacked on top of each other. The curtains there are almost always drawn, the place looking as lifeless as a morgue. But one night, while I was brushing my teeth, I noticed a flicker of light from one of the windows across from mine. The window directly opposite my bedroom. At first, I thought someone had just moved in. The silhouette of a person passed by quickly, the glow of a lamp turning their shape into a shadow. But what unsettled me wasn't that someone was there. It was the way they paused, right at the edge of the window, perfectly still, as if they were staring straight at me. I remember spitting out toothpaste, leaning closer to my own window, squinting. The shadow didn't move, just stayed there, watching. "Creep," I muttered, pulling my blinds shut. The next night, I checked again. The window across was dark. No one there. I felt silly for even worrying. But then, just as I was about to turn away, the lamp flicked on, and the figure appeared again, waiting. This time, I swore I saw their head tilt slightly, following me. Tell me, what would you do if that happened to you 2 nights in a row? Would you wave at them, confront them maybe? Or would you pretend you hadn't noticed? I chose the latter, but ignoring it didn't make it stop. Over the next week, it became a ritual. Every night around 11, the lamp across the street turned on. Every night, the figure appeared. Sometimes they stood still. Sometimes they paced slowly, like a caged animal. But always near that window. Always when my lights were on. I tried rationalizing it. Maybe they were just lonely. Maybe they weren't even looking at me. Maybe it was just coincidence. But then things started happening inside my apartment. One evening, I came home from work and found a sticky note pressed against my door. No handwriting, just a crudely drawn smiley face. I brushed it off as a prank by some neighbor kid, until it happened again the next night. This time, the note had 3 words. "I see you." My stomach dropped. I whipped my head toward the building across the street. And sure enough, the lamp clicked on. The figure was already there. Still. Silent. I reported it to the landlord, but he shrugged, said the building opposite had been mostly empty for years. "Probably just some squatter," he said. "Don't worry about it." But how do you not worry when someone clearly knows where you live? I started double-locking my door, keeping the blinds drawn at all times. I stopped turning on my bedroom light altogether, afraid of becoming a silhouette for them to study. But no matter how much I tried to hide, They kept finding ways to remind me I wasn't alone. One night, I woke up at 3 a.m. to the sound of tapping. Not on the door. On the window. My third-floor window. I shot up in bed, hard hammering. And there it was, a sticky note pressed against the glass from the outside. Nice dreams. How? How could anyone have reached my window without a ladder? I rushed over, but by the time I pulled the blinds back, the figure across the street was gone. The lamp off. I wanted to call the police, but what would I say? Someone's leaving sticky notes and staring at me? They'd laugh me off the phone. So I confided in a friend instead, my neighbor Sarah, who lived one floor below. She was sweet, always checking in on me. When I told her, she frowned. That's terrifying, she said. But you know what? I'll help you catch them. If they're watching you every night, maybe I can stay over sometime, and we'll confront them together. I can't tell you the relief I felt. Finally, someone believed me. We made a plan. She came over the next night, and we kept the blinds slightly open, pretending we weren't paying attention. Like clockwork, the lamp across the street lit up. The figure appeared. I whispered, "See? Look, do you see him?" Sarah leaned in close, squinting. "No," she whispered back. "I don't see anything." I blinked. The figure was right there, standing motionless, watching. "You don't see them?" I hissed. Sarah shook her head. "It's just an empty window." For a moment, I thought maybe I was going insane. But then, the lamp flickered twice, like a signal, and Sarah's face changed. Just slightly. A smile. The kind of smile you never want to see on someone you thought you could trust. I backed away slowly. "You do see them," I whispered. She didn't answer. She just turned to me, her smile widening. And that's when I noticed something that made my blood run cold. A smear of yellow paper dust stuck to her sleeve. The kind from sticky notes. "Sarah," I stammered, my throat dry. "It's you." Her eyes locked on mine. Calm. Almost tender. "You were never supposed to figure it out," she said softly. The last thing I remember was the sound of the blinds snapping shut,